a debate about our energy future. Joining me are former Huntington Beach Mayor Debbie Cook, an environmentalist and an energy consultant, and Inland Energy CEO Buck Johns, an industrial engineer and a business consultant. Welcome. Buck, green energy, it's clean, it's the future. What's wrong with it?
It's expensive. It's attractive, but expensive. We're calling it, in a lot of the publications from the Heritage Foundation, the renewable energy boondoggle, the path less taken for a reason. It's expensive.
So what's the alternative?
We're seeing an alternative happen right now. Fortune magazine runs a cover story of the current edition right here about the fracking and the natural gas. We've won that battle. Now then we're seeing energy drop like a rock.
All right, so that's a nice metaphor there, drop like a rock. But fracking, people hear that. Just very briefly, what is fracking?
It's a concept of being able to drill down into the 10,000-foot range and encase the drill bit in concrete to protect the water.
Don't be too much of an engineer now.
Of the first 1,000 feet, and then you crack by hydraulic pressures. You break open the fissures, put sand in them to keep them open, and then you can extract from dead fields.
Just what, natural gas?
Natural gas and oil.
Okay, all right. Debbie, this sounds wonderful.
Sounds wonderful, but it isn't. In fact, the whole Chesapeake thing that's happened recently is beginning to shine a light on the fracking issue and how it's being subsidized. Chesapeake is the biggest, probably, fracking company in the country, and their CEO, who just lost his title of CEO and is now being investigated by the SEC for conflicts of interest, where he was basically borrowing money to help to pay for these costs of fracking. But the bigger issue, though, is the resource itself. It's probably overstated by 100%. What you see in these fracked fields is that the depletion rate is 80% within the first 2 years of development. And so we're probably not going to see, you know, you have to constantly drill and drill and drill.
So your complaint is there's not that much there to be fracked?
Well, there's certainly, you know, this delusion that this resource, this unconventional resource that requires 15,000-foot laterals to be drilled and fluids to be injected and all of these things that have to be done, that somehow that's a better reservoir than the reservoirs we've been extracting from over the last 100 years. This is not our future.
Well, but we are a country with huge natural gas deposits, lots of coal. Now, granted, that stuff is dirty, at least under current technologies, but shouldn't we be trying to figure out how we can convert this stuff into energy?
First of all, don't do what most people do. They confuse resource with reserves and reserves with supplies, and they're not the same things. You know, it's like trying to put out a forest fire with a garden hose. It's just not going to happen. You'd have to have millions of garden hoses to attack the fire. And so that's what we're faced with now, these little tiny hoses to put out this massive consumption of energy that we
What about that,
desire.
Buck? There's a lot more sun out there, there's a lot more wind out there than there is of these resources.
I would debate some of Debbie's observations there about the fact that where she makes the statement that there's an insufficient supply, and that's not borne out. Exxon's our biggest corporation. They're the biggest in the business at this, and those were problems with Aubrey McClendon with Chesapeake were financial problems, not the fact that he was able to steer that company into the fracking and had great success there. No question, the sun is an abundant source of energy. It's where all of our energy comes from. But the cost of doing that is prohibitive to be able to do it on a utility scale effort.
Yeah, well, Debbie,
well, first of all, you were proposing a solar plant out in Victorville, so it's a little ironic now that you're bashing solar. I have had solar on my home for at least 5 years, and it's probably the smartest investment that I ever made. I have invested in my own power plant. If I ever sell my home, I will probably get 100% of my investment back, and I don't pay any electric bill.
Isn't there also a government subsidy that goes with that?
If you eliminated the subsidies on all energy, renewables would look much better than fossil fuels. Fossil fuels are probably, according to a USC study, are subsidized by 12 times more than renewable energies. So eliminate all the subsidies, and then we'll have a
What about that,
fair
Buck?
playing
If you
field.
eliminated all the subsidies, fossil fuels couldn't stand up to renewables.
I wouldn't agree with that. The reason why we're getting these renewable energy, and yes, our company has done, we've taken to the California Energy Commission 3 projects. We've done roughly 2,000 megawatts of power 2003, our company won the Power Plant of the Year for the first combined cycle power plant, and we did the first 2 hybrids in California for the city of Palmdale and the city of Victorville, which encompassed some 100 megawatts in the total of those. And so there's lots of opportunity here, but it gets back to the economics. And you're absolutely right. The reason why Spain and Germany were able to elevate their renewable energy activities dramatically were massive subsidies. Spain spent $36 billion. They're now got an unemployment rate of almost 20%. It's not working, and it would be great if they were to eliminate all those subsidies on energy.
Yeah, there is no bigger subsidy than the U.S. military guarding the freight, the lines for the tankers to move oil around the world. The Cato Institute has done a study on that, and they even say the same thing.
One could argue that they're doing it because it's worth it. In other words, that's where the energy is right now.
Well, but that doesn't change the fact that that's a subsidy.
Well, what about the jobs argument? Because even some people that say, yes, green energy is good for the environment and this is the future. A lot of people are employed. We could put people to work in the coal areas of this country, extracting natural gas, and that these green jobs just don't generate that much economic activity.
Rick, there is a finite source of coal, gas, and oil. And what are we going to do? What's our plan B? And if we're not starting now, then we're going to be even in a bigger hurt than we will be in the next 10 years as oil depletion, because oil has been flat for 5 years. And in fact, net exports of oil have declined by 3 million barrels per day. So it's really not about how much we're putting out. It's what's available on the market for us to purchase.
So, Buck, what about that? We're running out of these resources and we got to get with it.
No, we're not. We have more reserves of natural gas now than we ever have. But there's 2 groups that we got to separate. She's talking about the oil for the shippings and stuff. That's transportation fuel. All of our domestic energy is produced domestically, okay? We're not using oil to produce electrons in this country. That's not happening. So it's a separate question there about transportation fuels and then about the fuels that we use to generate energy. And everybody loves renewables, and distributed generation with renewables is a wonderful thing, and that we've been at this thing for a long time. We think there's a wonderful, you look at parking meters, they've got solar fields on top of them. There's amazing things that we're doing with that. And we're making great progress on that. But the question is, if we're going to be looking at utility scale power, which is what the study was about, we're going to use major amounts of energy to transport the metropolitan water district's needs and stuff. They're going to have to come from fossil fuels, and we'll pick up some of the other energy sources too. Okay. But we can't ignore that.
Well, let me introduce one other word into this discussion, nuclear. And of course, we saw the disaster in Japan, some serious problems right now at San Onofre. Should we have nuclear power?
Well, I think it's a little bit like roads. Let's maintain what we have before we go forward with anything, and we're demonstrating that we can't
So you're not in favor of just shutting down the nuclear plants?
We can't even maintain what we have. We should be shutting down the ones that are now past their prime and need to be shut down. And let's see if we can handle the nuclear waste we already have before we create more nuclear waste. Japan has shut down their last one, and now it appears that France is even interested in more renewables and getting away from nuclear.
Your fellow Huntington Beach politician, Congressman Dana Rohrabacher, said that what we should do is take these plants, and when they're being like San Onofre, when it's time for them to be recommissioned, and use the new technology. Just basically, gut them and use this new cutting-edge technology, which is very safe for nuclear.
That guy smokes. I mean, he would be mining.
I think he might admit it. I don't know.
He would. He wants to mine resources on the moon.
So you think that's a goofy idea?
It is absolutely. I mean, he is goofy. But irrespective of that, it is clear. You can either look at the numbers or you can listen to the numbskulls. And I prefer to look at the hard data that is available at the EIA or the IEA or British Petroleum or any of those things, to look at the resource base and make a smart decision on where we go from here, because our resource base is not huge. The resource is huge. The reserves, not so big, and the supplies are getting smaller and smaller.
Bucker, are people like Dana who want to do this, use new technology on nuclear, are they numbskulls?
Not at all. No, I think the advent of the things that we've learned in nuclear reactors, and give credit to France, because after World War II, that was the only source of energy they had, and they became the center of development for renewable activities for the world. And that, I think they've made great strides. I think there are great opportunities. And Keep in mind that all the spent fuel rods that were generated in the 40 years that San Onofre's been in existence are located right there next to the plant. They're not housed with the folks over in New Mexico and in Nevada over there with Harry Reid's group. So all of those should be stored in a spent fuel rods location.
Okay, Buck, you get the last word. Thanks. Not much agreement. You know, I'm going to bring you all together. We should do all of the above. We should do it all, from sun to nuclear. You can watch this show and past shows by going to pbssocal.org and clicking on SoCal Insider. My guests have been Judge Jim Gray, Debbie Cook, and Buck Johns. Thanks for watching. I'll see you again on SoCal Insider.
SoCal Insider with Rick Reeve is brought to you by the following. 5 Point Communities is a proud sponsor of PBS SoCal. 5 Point Communities is an independent real estate development company with assets under management across California. More information available at www.fivepointcommunities.com.
Air pollution can make us sick. Asthma, permanent loss of lung function, even premature death. At UC Irvine, our research is leading to scientifically sound options for reducing pollution and protecting our health.
Snell and Wilmer is a full-service business law firm with more than 400 attorneys in Orange County, Los Angeles, and throughout the West. On the web at swlaw.com. Snell and Wilmer. Straight talk, sound counsel. Practical solutions.
Generous support for this program is provided by Gemini Industries Incorporated, precious metals processors and producers for all major oil companies. Gemini Industries Incorporated is a proud sponsor of PBS and encourages community support for PBS SoCal.
Support comes from City National Bank, providing complete financial solutions to entrepreneurs, their businesses, and their families on the way up for nearly 60 years. Experience the City National difference. CNB.com.